Hello, my friends. Welcome to Refresh F5 Ministries. I want to begin telling you some of my amazing stories. I just have to say, this has been an assignment that God has given me for the last 5 years. And for whatever reason, I just have not been obedient to fulfilling the assignment that He has so graciously given me. Now, mind you, I do tell these stories to everybody that will listen to me throughout the years. And every job I've ever had, I've always told my stories to employees as well as to customers. So this has just been a 13-year process that I have been doing, and really even before that, but I would say 13 years that I've been on this amazing journey. But 5 years ago, God told me that I needed to get on YouTube, start a channel, and start giving you encouraging stories about wonderful things that He has done for me. Because if He's done it for me, He definitely is going to also do it for you. We just have to have faith like a mustard seed. And as long as we have faith like a mustard seed, He's going to do amazing things for us. I also remember back when in the Bible, they talk about the lady with the blood issue. She had a major blood issue for 12 years. And back then, it was like having a disease if you had any type of disorder like that. So even though a day like today, in this day and age, that wouldn't be considered someone that you wouldn't even go close to, back then, that's how it was. And she not only was in so much pain and ostracized for her blood issue, so therefore she didn't really have friends. She didn't have any socialization. She just knew that if she could get close enough to Jesus, even if it was just touching the end of His garment, that He would heal her of that blood issue. And sure enough, she came in contact with Him, and she ran up behind Him, and she knelt down and touched the end of His garment. And when she did that, He felt her faith. And because of her faith, He healed her. And that blood was taken away. She no longer had that blood issue. So, it's stories like this that we need to remember when we're going through extremely difficult trials. And, we've all had our share of trials, some a little bit harder than others. But you know what? No matter what the trial is, if we're going through it, it's hard. Like I could say, oh, that's nothing like what I've gone through, and you could say the same about me. But the fact that you're going through it, because I believe that every trial is based on what you need to have in order to grow stronger in your faith. So, I'm going to tell you this amazing story that just happened a few months ago. And along, I'll be sharing even more stories that are even just as wow as this one, if not maybe even more. But back in May, I lost my job. I was not warned that I would be losing my job, although I will say the Lord gave me a feeling that I just knew after the Christmas holiday that something in my spirit just didn't feel right. And when I say it didn't feel right, it just felt like I was about to have something major happen in my life. But I didn't think it was my job, because at that time, after the holidays, I had been on my job just about 7 months. So my job was still new. I didn't think it would be my job. But I felt like it would either be in a relationship that would change my life, or maybe changing churches, which I didn't want to see that happen because I love my church. But you know, when God tells you to move, you have to move because He has a bigger purpose for you. Or I didn't know if maybe I was moving somewhere because He's done that to me before. So I was getting ready. I would tell a couple of friends here and there, I just have this feeling that something major is going to happen. And God was telling me to prepare my house. So, I mean, I have to say I wasn't really preparing in the way that maybe He would have wanted me to, just because my job it just ate up all of my energy and all of my time. So I was a little preoccupied. But lo and behold, on May 15th, I got a call into the office. And every week we would have evaluations, kind of tell us where we were doing good, where we weren't doing good, how we need to correct things, you know, discuss any problems, that kind of thing. So I had an evaluation. I obviously knew I had the evaluation, but, you know, getting called into the office wasn't necessarily a thing to worry about because basically it was wherever my manager was at the time, whether he was in town or not in town. Sometimes it was over the phone, sometimes it was over like a Zoom call, or sometimes it was in the office. So I went. I have to say, I just had a funny feeling that something was going to be different. So I go into the office and basically just immediately said, we're going to have to part ways. Now, not only is it shocking to hear that you've lost your job and you're the sole supporter of your home, but I was driving a company car. And I had sold my car to my son back in May of the previous year, 2024. But then in September of 24, he got into a car wreck while he was working. And it ended up that we settled. The car was claimed to be totaled. And they gave me money to pay out the car, and then there was some extra. So I did put that money in the bank. And, you know, because when you're driving a company car, you just never know. There might come a time that you don't have a company car anymore. Just didn't think it would be that soon. So I was like, okay. Now, I just was saying in my head, okay, God, what now? And as shocked as I was, and truthfully, I just wanted to break down and cry. But I had to be strong because, number one, the crying wouldn't do any good. It would just affect me. And I'd rather do that in private. And I just felt like I needed to just get with God and see what God had to say about everything. So they said, we need for you to go outside and take everything out of the car. We're going to get someone to take you home. And I said, well, you know, you just don't understand. Like, I don't have a vehicle. Like, I don't have the means to even go get a vehicle. So, you know, of course, they don't really care because there's not much that they can do about it when upper management's telling them that they have to do this. So I went home and I just said, God, I just know that you have a bigger plan. I don't see it right now. I don't understand it, but I trust you because He's gotten me through difficult times before, and I wasn't even as strong in my faith as I was back then as I was now. So I knew that I could get through it because basically I've had some practice rounds with it. So when God is taking you through storms, just know that He's holding your hand the whole time, and He does have a plan. But He is not going to get you out of that storm without holding your hand first and walking you through it. Excuse me, just a moment. I had this tickle in my throat. So anyway, I was like, okay, God, you've got this. You have a plan. So I immediately shared the information with my family, with my friends, and everybody was just so encouraging. And as much as they were in shock, they were like, we'll help you any way that we can. If you need a ride to an interview, if you need a ride to the grocery store, whatever you need, we will pitch in and help you. So I said, okay. And as much as I don't necessarily like to be alone and not have a vehicle to go places, I knew that God just needed me to sit. I didn't know for how long. I didn't know how all this was going to work out. But once again, I knew that He had a plan. So, believe it or not, 2.5 months went by. Now let me back up by saying the day that I lost my job, I sent a text to a friend who I had only known for about 6 months. And we go to church together. When I met her, God told me that I would be discipling her. And I just started sharing my stories with her. And one of the stories that I shared with her, because I was just trying to teach her about faith, how to take the trials that you go through and let that grow your faith, because God always has a plan and He always has a way out of this trial. So I shared with her how God had me give, so he told me to go buy a car. This was back in 2019. He told me to go buy a car that I had kept putting off and putting off because I was driving a paid for car and I just loved my car and I just didn't feel like I wanted payments. But he said, you need to go buy a car. So I did. He told me the budget. I went and got the money from the bank. I got a blank check from the bank to go buy whatever car that I chose. And when I found the car, because I wasn't trading in my car, I was trying to sell my car privately. And I had people looking at it, but I didn't get it sold before buying the car. And I kept telling God, I need to sell my car before I go buy this car. And God said, won't you just trust me? Like, won't you just go ahead and buy the car and then trust that your car will be taken care of? Because, I'm thinking, then I have to buy a new tag for the new car because I can't use my tag on my current car. I have to keep insurance on the current car while I get insurance on the new car. Like, I'm just thinking of all these obstacles. And so the day that I drove to Daytona Beach to purchase my car, which that's a whole nother story in itself that I'll share on another video. When I was driving back home, God said, you need to give your car to your friend. And I was like, okay, as much as I like helping friends, I was like, Lord, like that's $3,000 or $3,500 that I could get from my car. And I could apply that to the money that I just spent on this car. He said, you need to give your car to your friend. So after I accepted that assignment, I couldn't wait any longer, and I called her on the way home and I said, the Lord told me that I needed to give you my car. And she started crying. And she said, you're not going to believe this, but my car broke down this morning and I prayed to God to help me find a car. And look what God did. So I told her that story, and as soon as I texted her that I was carless, she said, Patty, I just keep remembering that story that you told me about giving your friend your car. And I have to believe that God is going to do the same for you. He is going to provide you with a car. Then I had another friend that a couple years ago, the Lord laid it on a couple's heart to take money out of their retirement savings and write her a check for $25,000 to go buy a car of her choice. So, when this happens to other people, or you're part of the blessing to bless somebody, you you don't really think that this is going to happen to you. Number one, you're not believing that this is a necessity that you're going to need one day. The other thing is, you're thinking when you're in the middle of that necessity, you're not thinking level-headed that, hey, God is going to do this for you because you were part of a blessing that He used to bless somebody else. Or you're best friends with somebody and you gave them a free room for a couple of years, that you were part of her blessing on giving her a free room to live in, and you saw the blessing of this couple blessing her with this gift of a car. So, like, what He does for one, He will do for another if you just believe. So I just kept saying, okay, Lord, I just know that you're going to provide me with a car. I have no idea how. I have no idea what kind of car. But let me tell you, the money I had in my savings, which was about $8,000 to $10,000, I don't know if you looked for cars, but it's not enough money for, a car that I would want to spend $8,000 or $10,000 on. And I didn't have the means to get a loan for a car, which is another story in itself as well. So I just said, Lord, I just have no idea what to do. So I called a friend of mine that has access to getting cars from auction. And she said, yeah, I'll help you. I'll help you get a car. But my goal is to help you get a car that you don't have to spend all the money that you have. And as long as it gets you from point A to point B, you're good. So I said, yeah, that's all I need. And like 24 hours later, she called me and she goes, I have a car for you. We have a mechanic that can check it out, make sure everything is good. This is a car that, I would give to a family member. Like, I don't have a problem telling you about this car. And she goes, the good news is it's only going to take a small portion of the money that you have. Okay, so in hindsight, that sounded really good because, okay, Lord, you're providing me with a car that's not going to take my full amount of money that's in savings. That's like a no-brainer. Like, that was your blessing. And I just felt it in my spirit to say to her, let me pray about this, because I can't always act on impulse, because then I'm acting on feelings, and feelings will always get you into trouble. And I just knew that I just needed to have quiet time with the Lord so I could really hear Him and hear, okay, God, is this part of your plan? Is this the blessing that you're giving me? Or is this a fake blessing? Not that it would be totally bad, but it wouldn't be the best. And God always, always, always gives you the best. The best. So she said, sure, I'll just put it on hold and you just let me know. So almost a week went by, and I just could not feel it in my spirit that God was telling me to go through with this. So at the end of that week, I just texted her back and I said, "Hey, thank you for the finding the car for me, but I just don't feel like this is what God wants me to do right now. I don't even have a job yet." And she said, "No problem. I've already put it back into inventory, and we'll just do whatever you need to do at the time you need to do it." So I said, "Okay." So 2.5 months go by from the day that I lost my job with my car, and I was at my family's house. So my sister and her husband and family, all her adult children, live here in Florida, and my older sister was coming from Atlanta to visit, and my mom lives here. So every week, sometimes it's not every week, but for as a rule, every week or every other week, we try to get together at my sister's house for family dinner. And we've done that since COVID. And so with my sister in town, we had it planned out. She had just arrived. So my sister's adult 3 children and the one's wife. And then my sister from Atlanta, we were all going to get together for dinner. And we get to the house, we have dinner, everything is good. And then at the end of dinner, my sister takes her grandbaby from my niece's arms so that my niece could finish her dinner. And she just says to me, "Patty, will you go out to the garage and get me a water?" And at first I thought, well, this is really strange because there's a cooler sitting in here in the kitchen with all kinds of drinks in it. I wasn't even standing up, so it wasn't like I had easy access to go to the garage. My mom was standing up. My mom says, "Oh, I'll go get it for you." And my sister said, "No, Patty has to go get it." And I'm thinking, okay, that's a little odd, but I'm going to go get it because we do things for each other. So I go out to the garage, and just as I opened up the door, my niece and nephew are standing by their car in the garage, which, okay, they're at my sister's house, but their car is in my sister's garage. And it had a big pink bow on the hood of the car. And I'm just standing there like, okay, is there something I should know and I'm not seeing it? Like, is there something we're celebrating and I haven't been told yet? And they go, "Do you see something that you want?" And I said, "Well, I came out here to get a water." And then I looked at the car and it dawned on me, and I said, "Are you trying to tell me that this is mine?" And they said, "Yes, we're giving you our car." And I just started bawling because I thought, the goodness of God, but then the goodness of my niece and nephew, because we all knew that they were trying for months to trade in that car for another vehicle. So it was a SUV, it's a Ford Escape. It's an older car, it's a 2012, but my nephew has taken very good care of it. But they were wanting to trade it in for a van because they were blessed with 2 children under the age of 2. And my niece just felt like it would be better to get them in and out of a van instead of an SUV. So they've been searching for a van, and I'm thinking, okay, but they were going to trade in this car and they're just like giving it to me. And then they said, well, actually, Grandma is part of this blessing as well. Because what happened was my mother drives an older van and she takes excellent care of her vehicles. She doesn't drive very far. It's in such great condition. There was no reason for her to not keep that car. It's totally paid for. It has been for years. But her neighbor down the street was selling his van that was the same van as hers, but a few years newer. So it had a little bit less miles on it. And she thought, okay, I will go buy their van, and that way I feel better having a little bit newer van. And then I'll give them my van, and then Patty can have their car. And then to top it all off, my brother-in-law, he detailed my mom's van for my niece and nephew, and then he detailed their Ford Escape that was now going to be my vehicle. Detailed it. And then he said to me, oh, and by the way, I'm going to pay for your registration. I'm going to pay for your first 6 months of insurance. And I'm going to take it to my mechanic to have him look at the power steering because it lost power when I parked it in the garage. And Brandon said that it's done it to him one other time, but hasn't done it since. And I don't want you driving with that possibly going out. I'm going to have my mechanic look at it and get that fixed for you. I was just like, Lord, I was happy with just the car. And then the fact that, oh my goodness, my brother-in-law steps in and takes care of all of that for me. So I'm just here to tell you, which by the way, where are we at? 4.5 months later, I still don't have a job. Although I am doing paparazzi because, you know, I was 2.5 months without a vehicle to go anywhere. So I thought, okay, what can I do that I can sit at home and do something? Not only do something, but possibly make money at it. So being that I was purchasing for over a year paparazzi and loved it and had thought many, many times about selling it, but didn't sell it because that job consumed every ounce and then some of my energy and almost all of my time, literally. Like I was working 14-hour days a lot of times. So I'm doing paparazzi, and then, you know, of course, God told me to do YouTube, which I'm just now doing. But the goodness of God that He's been carrying me this whole time, and that's going to be in another video. But what I want to say is, when I was given that car, it took another month for it to come back from the mechanic. And the day that it came back was on Wednesday, August 27th. And that day, I was going to a concert at my church with Chandler Moore from, now that I'm trying to think of what the group that he was from. But anyway, he does a lot on his own too. But him and Anthony, what's Anthony's last name? Anyway, oh, Anthony Evans. They were coming to do a concert at my church. And I really wanted to go to it, but I didn't have the means to go. And that dear friend that I told you I'm discipling her, she had called, or she had told me at church a few weeks before that, she asked if I was going to that concert. And I said no, you know, because I don't have a job to pay for it. She goes, well, good, because I'm buying you a ticket. And she lives right next door to the church, but many times she has driven all the way over to my house to then go back to the church with me. And she was willing to do that night, even though sometimes she works late and, you know, she'd have to fight traffic to get over to me. And I'm like 16, 17 minutes, let's just say 20 minutes from the church. But it's still, you know, she would have to get off work no later than 5:30, 5:45 to be able to come get me and us to get back to the church before the concert started. But anyway, she was all set to do that. However, that day, my car was ready. And at 4 o'clock, my brother-in-law texted me and he says, I'm going to get your car right now. Now, mind you, he lives 30 minutes away from me, and the mechanic is probably another 30 minutes from him. So I just knew that there was no way that I could meet up with them and still make it to my concert in time. So I just said, you know what? Thank you for going to pick it up. I'll just get with you tomorrow to pick it up. Because, I didn't want him coming all the way to me after working all day because he's doing me the favor. But I just said, I'll get with you in the morning. I have to be at church, by 6 or 6:30, and there's no way I can meet up with you. And at about 5 o'clock, he called me and he said, hey, I just got it from the mechanic. I'm on my way to your house. And I said, okay, thank you. So he dropped it off in just enough time for me to get the keys and get in the car and drive away to the church for this concert that I was blessed with the ticket for. And as I got in my car, the song that was on the radio was, God Will Provide. Never heard that song before. And all of a sudden, I hear, God will provide. And I sang that song all the way to church because I was just thanking the Lord and just worshiping Him for all that He has done for me. So, if it meant losing my job to be able to see miracle after miracle after miracle, I cannot tell you how many times in that 2.5 months that friends went out of their way to pick me up to take me to church. So many times. And then would take me out to eat because they wanted me to eat out with them. So many times that my family took me out to eat. Every time we did family dinner or we had a family event going on, my mother or my sister would come pick me up and then bring me back to the gathering. And, that was going, like, where we had to go to was where they came from and had to pick me up. Anyway, you know what? When the Lord tells you to do something, like so many times I offered to pick people up, go out of my way to pick them up. I can't say that I didn't kick and scream about it because, we always want things to be convenient for us. And oh boy, I think I'll think twice about that now. But because I would do that, the Lord blessed me with all these people for 2.5 months going out of their way to pick me up. So, a couple of things I want to say to you. Just get before the Lord. Build a relationship with the Lord to where He is truly, truly your best friend. Because when you need to hear from Him, without a doubt, you will hear from Him because you are that close to Him. Just like in the Bible, when they say the sheep knows the shepherd's voice because they spend every single day with their one shepherd. And all those sheep knows that shepherd's name. And people have done videos on showing you that they've gone up to the sheep and they've called to the sheep and the sheep did not come because it was not their shepherd's voice. Know your Lord's voice. He will speak to you, and He speaks in so many different ways. But when my Lord speaks, I know without a doubt it is Him. I know it because I know his character. I know who he is. I know what he does. I know what he has done for me. I know what he will do for me. And that's how you have to get with the Lord. You have to know how wonderful he is and what he will do for you, because what he does for me, he will do for you. I just have so many stories to tell you. But one thing I want to say is, not only did God say God will provide, when I got in my car that day and drove off to a concert that I was so blessed with, by the way. That ticket was such a blessing because that night of worship, it just spoke volumes to me, because there was a story in that worship time that still has made an impact on me. But I also want to say I had to wear this shirt because 5 years ago, God told me to make t-shirts. And I said, Lord, first of all, I don't even like t-shirts. So you're asking me to make t-shirts. And then I'm like, everybody makes t-shirts. How am I going to make any money by making t-shirts? And the Lord said, well, you're going to make t-shirts on words that I give you that have meaning. And I said, Lord, there are so many people out there making faith-based t-shirts and making all kinds of t-shirts. Like, how are my t-shirts going to stand out? And he said, not only are you going to do it with words that I tell you, but when somebody orders a t-shirt, you're going to ask them, do you have a specific word that you want me to print? Or do you want me to print the word that God gives me for you? So I call it a word from God t-shirt, because it's a word from him to you. I cannot tell you. So, when God gives you a gift and he's grooming that gift, it's so foreign to you that you go, there's just no way. There's no way I can hear from God what a word is for a total stranger, let alone even a friend. But God had me do it. And I cannot tell you how many shirts I sold that when I said, do you want a word from God t-shirt? And their eyes lit up and they said yes. And they even got to the point where I would say, do you want to tell me what color you want the t-shirt? Do you want to tell me what color you want the writing? And I gave them all the colors and they said, no, I want you to ask God what color I need to have to go along with his word. Now, when I didn't know the person, like they were, like somebody referred them to me, so like I didn't really know anything about them, I would just say, don't tell me a thing about yourself. I don't want to know your story. I don't want to know anything about you. I want God to tell me what he needs for you to hear. And every time I would do one of those shirts, when I would present it to them, they would start crying. Because they go, oh my gosh, that's exactly what he's been saying to me. So I had to make this shirt with the word sufficient, because a couple of years ago, my friend who was living with me at the time, we went to church together. We were having a ladies' conference, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make this video so long, but this is how my stories go. They keep, overflowing to the next story, but I really need to keep it for another video. But I'll quickly finish this part. So she asked, because there was a lot of pastors coming from South Africa, because we have churches over in South Africa, so they were coming for the ladies' conference. And they were being hosted by different people. And we actually had one of the pastors stay here in my third bedroom, and we hosted her. So my friend said, I want to have a dinner party for the ladies. Do you mind? And I said, mi casa, su casa. So we got together, she came up with the menu. I said, I'll go buy all the paper plates and napkins and all that kind of stuff. And we kind of, sorted out who was going to get what. And, and part of the evening with these ladies was after dinner, we adjourned to the living room and we had a prayer time and word of encouragement. And she handed everybody a note card in an envelope. It had our name on it. And we were to, of course, we got a card with a name on it that was not our name. So whoever's name was on there, we had to pray to God what was the word that we needed to give that person on that card to have for that night. So my word was sufficient because I was going through a time when I didn't have a job and I didn't have any money and I didn't know how, things were going to get paid. And the girl that had my name, she heard from God. In fact, she heard from God earlier that day that whosever name she got, she had to tell them the word was sufficient. She had no idea that she was going to get my name. But she said when she heard my story that afternoon as we were preparing for the dinner, that she knew that was my word. So whenever I'm in doubt about my finances, I just look to this shirt and I go, God is sufficient because He can do all the things and then some that I can't do. So when I can't do something, He can step in and do it. And the purpose of me not being able to do it is to see how He does it, because there's no way that it could be done. So I'm going to end this video on that word. Like I said, ended up being a couple of different messages, but the key message was about how God provided that amazing car for me, and how blessed I am by my family. You really, really, really get to see how your family and friends step up to the plate when you're in a time of crisis. Yeah. So if God tells you to be a part of a blessing to somebody else, do not hesitate one single bit, even if it's the last dollar that you have, because He's done that to me. Had me give my last $20 to somebody at a gas station that I didn't even know. Anyway, I just want to say, I love my God, and I know that you do too. And I know that you want to grow stronger in your faith, and I know that you will, because as you continue to hear my stories and other people's stories, you're going to realize how important it is to follow God's will and to walk very, very close to Him. I'll never forget when I was first on this journey, which I'll tell you my journey story in another video. But when I was first on it, because I spent every day, all day long with God, when I would talk about my stories to other people, I would refer to God, like somebody said to me, you talk about God as if He's your best friend. Like He spends all day with you. And I said, well, first of all, He is my best friend. And second of all, we do spend all day together because wherever I go, He goes. Okay? So anyway, I hope that this video was a true encouragement for you. And I just ask that you subscribe to my channel, that you turn on your notifications so that you are notified every time I have another video upload. And you know what? Comment below whatever you want to comment, whether you are encouraged by this story or you have a story that you want to share with me. I will be reading all the comments anytime that somebody comments. Because if you need prayer or you need extra encouragement, I want to be there for you. Because let me tell you, there's been a lot of people always there for me. And I know just the people to go to when I need that extra oomph, to kind of nudge me along. So anyway, thank you for joining me, and you have an awesome rest of your day. I'm not sure when you'll be watching this video, but just know that I love you, and I'm just so happy that I'm stepping into God's assignment, and whatever He's asking you to do, don't wait as long as I have. Okay? All right. I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.